Hey real estate nerds, this is Alex Yoder with Pro Tip Tuesday, my favorite day of the week. And today I'd like to answer a couple questions about non-renewals. Number one, I often am asked how soon of a non-renewal notice should I give to my tenant? And folks will often say I'm worried about giving them 6 months of notice, and then they have a bunch of time to damage my house because they're mad that I'm asking them to leave. The reality is that the more notice you give them, the better. If you try to give them a 30-day notice in the middle of the spring, summer, for example, they're much more likely to damage your house and to resent you for that situation. Give them as much notice as possible. I've given tenants almost a year or even a year of notice if I knew that we weren't going to be renewing their lease at the end of it because we were going to do renovations or the owner was moving back into the property or whatever it might have been. The second thing is, a lot of people will ask, should I give my tenant a reason for why I am non-renewing them? Some companies will just say, you need to leave, and will not tell them why. And the thought process is they're trying to protect themselves from basically the tenant arguing about the why. And some attorneys will say, don't tell them why. But I've spoken with attorneys on the other side of that table that will say you should definitely tell them why, because they're much less likely to argue with you. And I agree with that. I would recommend telling them why you're non-renewing them. It'll make things a lot easier. Now, if the tenant is just an awful person and you don't have a good reason, like I'm selling or moving back in or whatever it may be, that's where you may want to reevaluate that and get legal advice. But my thought is just tell them why if you're selling the home or moving back in, like I said, or even doing a major renovation so you can reposition the unit. And then the last thing is, as far as like actually posting that notice of non-renewal, is my recommendation would be that you document proof that you made every effort to serve by ringing the doorbell or whatever, but then that you posted it and that you have a picture that's like time and date stamped that you did post it. What you don't want to have happen is the tenant saying they never got it and using that as an argument in front of a judge if they don't leave when that date is over. Now, I can't think of a time that I've had that happen, but that is the advice of our attorney, to just document proof that you did post it so that if that comes up, you have everything you need. And a little side tip here, we use a program called Z Inspector for our inspections. And Z Inspector will time and dates and GPS stamp any photos or video that are done. So something like that, and Z Inspector is pretty cheap, pretty affordable. Something like that would be really good for any reports that you're doing, but certainly if you're trying to document proof of posting. So that's all for today. We'll see you next week.